Okay, so I manage the social prescribing team. We set the project up as a pilot in 2016, and it was funded by the Better Care Fund, and we based it very much on a pure model of social prescribing that runs in Bromley by Bow. Social prescribing isn't a new concept, it's been running since the 1980s. But it was new to Thurrock in 2016. It was quite small at the time. We worked in targeted GP surgeries, and then it grew the following year following its success and evaluation, and it continues to grow. So last year we saw about 1,000 patients, and just on the January and February's figures, we forecast probably 3,000 at the end of this year, so it's grown quite considerably. And from the start, when we were in 14 surgeries, we're now in 30 throughout Thurrock. So a bit about what we do. We take referrals from GP practices, so it could be any member of staff in the GP practice, and we meet patients for up to an hour. Mm-hmm. They can be referred for a range of reasons. It could be benefits, they could have low mood, they might want to manage their weight, it could be domestic abuse, anything that's outside of the medical model, because it's considered that about 70% of all visits to GP surgeries are based on social determinants and probably don't need medication as such. They need other support. They could need support with managing their finances. They might need specialist counselling for historical sex abuse. And we find that hour with somebody, for instance, I met somebody a couple of weeks ago that was referred for weight management. So I thought, it's quite straightforward, take their height, weight, refer them to the relevant service. But actually, when we were in conversation, it turned out that there was a reason that they, they couldn't manage their weight, and it was because they'd been abused as a child. So that all comes out in that hour, and if you didn't have that hour, you probably wouldn't build that trust. Yeah. And so, as well as the weight management, I referred them to other relevant services that could support that, mm-hmm. give them specialist counselling. We've got about 500 services within Thurrock, many of which are the third sector. And we also refer into the local area coordinators, and we're part of the new enhanced team that work in the surgery. So it's the paramedics, the advanced nurse practitioners. So we all sort of support each other and feed in that way.
Okay. So how important would you say your organisation is to the local area?
Thurrock CVS as a whole, or the project?
Your project.
I think it's seen as very important. We've had some positive feedback from GP practices who feel that it's really supporting them. There is I think we've got quite how can I say? To employ GPs in the area is difficult. So there needs, as it is in lots of parts of the country, so we need to find other ways to support people, and I think our project does that. It takes people away from a lot of the health services and puts them in the right direction for what they need. It's a very holistic approach.
Okay. As an organisation, how do you get your funding?
For my project, it's the Better Care Fund.
Okay.
And we work in conjunction with, the CCG. We report back to them.
Okay. What's the Better Care Fund?
The Better Care Fund. It's an adult social care basis.
Okay. And what would you say has been some of the greatest achievements of your project?
I think the fact that we are working with people holistically, that possibly some of the people that we meet, they've spoken about some of their issues for the first time, and they're now in middle age, and some of the issues that they've encountered for most of their lives, they've actually got that platform to offload it really, and then seek the right help. And the fact that it's recognised as supporting people, because, as I said, referrals have grown. Yes, it's difficult to forecast just based on 2 months, but from those figures, it would look like we would, multiply by 3 what we got referrals for last year.
Okey-doke. And what are some of the frustrations that your project faces?
I don't think there are any. I think initially, I wouldn't describe it as a frustration, but it was what you'd get with any new project. You have to make sure that everybody's on board with it, that they understand what it is that you do, that you have to set out new processes, and we were very clear that we wouldn't add to GP's workload, so we made all the processes very simple and succinct. Mm-hmm. We went along to clinical engagement groups and gave presentations and things like that to try and raise the profile of it. So it wasn't a frustration, it was just the process we'd have to work through to make sure that everybody knew who we were, what we did and how they could access it.